It's deployment day for Marcus Webb. He's heading out to Afghanistan. Standing right by the front door is his 4-year-old daughter, Emma. She's in her little yellow pajamas, clutching a stuffed bear, completely confused by all the bags and, her mother Sarah's tears. And right there in the middle of it all, Ranger, a golden retriever with muddy paws and these incredibly perceptive brown eyes. You can tell Ranger knows something big is shifting. He just presses his warm body against Marcus's leg, lets out this low whine, and literally refuses to move.
This specific moment really sets the emotional baseline for everything we're going to explore today. Marcus kneels down on the floor, buries his face deep into Ranger's golden fur, and whispers one final command. He says, "Take care of them, boy. That's your job now." And how does the dog respond? He seemingly accepts this massive mission with just a single, slow lick to Marcus's cheek. It plays out almost like this silent, unbreakable promise between a soldier and his dog right before he walks out that door.
So once that door actually closes, the harsh reality really sets in. It's the silent struggle of the home front. As weeks kind of blur into months, bleeding together like watercolors in the rain, as the source material beautifully puts it, the heavy lifting falls squarely on Marcus's wife, Sarah. She is absolutely the glue here. We're talking pulling double shifts at the hospital, managing little Emma's homework, and facing that grueling, daily emotional toll of just making dinner. Every single night, she's agonizingly aware that she's setting out one fewer plate at the table. It's a quiet, persistent ache.
Now, remember that job Marcus gave Ranger? Well, the dog takes it very seriously. He initiates this heart-wrenching daily routine. Without fail, at exactly 6 p.m., which was the exact time Marcus used to get back from base, Ranger walks to the front door. Ears go up, eyes lock onto the entrance, and he just sits and waits. And eventually, little Emma starts doing the exact same thing. So you have this picture, a little girl and a golden retriever, side by side, holding a silent vigil at the front door every single evening.
Sarah would actually stand back in the hallway and watch this happen. She literally had to press her hand over her mouth to muffle the sound of her crying so Emma and Ranger wouldn't hear her. And one evening, she decides to capture it. She snaps a photo of Emma in her little school uniform sitting right next to Ranger, both of them just staring out at that empty driveway. She sends that photo to Marcus with just 4 incredibly heavy words. "We're waiting for you."
Fast forward a few months, and a handwritten letter from Marcus arrives, and this letter reveals a massive psychological shift. The ink is crammed into every single corner of the page. Look at this contrast here. He writes that he used to crave adventure, right? He thought the big, cinematic moments in life were the ones that truly mattered. But out there, in the dust and the distance, his desires completely inverted. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they grounded themselves. He desperately craves the messy, everyday realities of an ordinary Tuesday. He says he would give absolutely anything for burnt toast, the sound of Emma complaining about her shoes, or Ranger just shamelessly stealing food right off the kitchen counter.
And the letter gets incredibly specific. Marcus notes that he doesn't dream about the living room or the bedroom. He is obsessively fixated on the kitchen. It really shows how our human memory anchors itself to these raw sensory details when we're far away from safety. He's thinking about the smell of morning coffee, the exact way the light hits this one crooked window above the sink, Emma's messy drawings proudly stuck to the fridge, and Ranger's water bowl just sitting on the floor. He even tells Sarah that Emma's laugh is literally the bravest sound he knows and calls Ranger the absolute best soldier he never trained. Then the letter ends with this devastatingly beautiful line addressed to Sarah. He writes, "You have always been my way home. No matter how far I go, you are the direction I walk toward." Wow. So Sarah reads this letter not once, not twice, but 7 times. She stands right there in front of that same crooked little kitchen window Marcus was dreaming about, bathed in the morning light. She holds the paper to her chest and she just lets herself completely fall apart. But only for a moment. Because then she wipes her eyes, turns right around, and pours 2 bowls of cereal for breakfast. I mean, that kind of resilience is just staggering. To really grasp the tension they were living with, let's look at the timeline. Month 1 is that painful departure. By month 4, they're living in this terrifying void of sparse communication. By month 7, that handwritten letter finally arrives, bringing this intense burst of hope and heartbreak. And then we hit month 8. Month 8 is when the phone rings. It's the call literally every military family dreads. The kind of call that stops Sarah's heart beating for 3 full seconds.
The military is on the line. They tell her Marcus has been injured in an explosion during a routine patrol, but right after that terrifying gut punch comes the absolutely crucial update. He is stable, and he is coming home. Yes, he was hurt, but the main takeaway, he survived.
Those 2 words, coming home, They completely change the atmosphere of the house in an instant. Now, Emma is super young, so she doesn't really grasp the severe implications of the word injured, right? But she 100% understands coming home. She sprints straight over to Ranger, grabs his furry face in her little hands, and just shouts the news right at him. And Ranger, he lets out this single, sharp, incredibly joyful bark and spins around in 3 complete circles.
So, the day of the homecoming finally arrives. It's this cold, gray November morning. Sarah is totally exhausted. She barely slept a wink the night before. Emma is dressed to the nines in her red, important day dress with the little white buttons. And Ranger, well, you guessed it. He's sitting right at the front door, exactly like he's done every single day at 6 p.m. for the last 8 months. And then, finally, a car pulls into the driveway.
When Marcus steps out of that car, he definitely looks different. He's visibly thinner, walking with a heavy limp, and his left arm is totally bound up in a sling. But Ranger does not care one bit. He doesn't wait for Marcus to walk up the path. The second that front door opens, that golden retriever absolutely explodes out of the house. He clears the entire yard in 4 massive leaps and hits the injured soldier so hard he nearly knocks him right over onto the cold pavement. But Marcus doesn't fall. Instead, he drops straight to his knees, wraps his one good arm around the dog, buries his face in that golden fur, and lets out this deep, real laugh, just whispering, "Good boy."
Right behind him comes Emma. She runs at full speed and just slams into her dad, locking her little arms super tight around his neck. Marcus holds her close, whispering, marveling at how much she's grown in just 8 months. And Emma, with that pure, matter-of-fact honesty that only a kid can have, looks right at him and says, "I waited for you every day, me and Ranger both." She just states it like a universal fact.
Then Marcus looks up over his daughter's shoulder, and he sees Sarah. She's standing a few feet away, tears just streaming down her face, with her hand pressed over her mouth, exactly like all those evenings she stood alone in the hallway. He reaches his good hand out toward her, and she takes it. And for a long moment, they just stay exactly like that, tangled together on the cold concrete of an ordinary driveway on an ordinary street. You've got the injured soldier, the exhausted wife, the little girl in the red dress, and the loyal dog.
As we start to wrap up this explainer, I think we need to look beyond just the Webb family and ask a much larger question. When we dive into the psychological data and these incredibly personal accounts of deployment, we learn so much about the true value of civilian life. Think about it. When everything is completely stripped away, what is the core thing we actually miss? What is the real thing we are trying so desperately to get back to?
Out there in the dust and the danger, Marcus figured out the true definition. Home is not a geographical location, It's not an address on a map. It is the sensory reality of the people and the creatures you love. It's the smell of coffee drifting through a crooked window. It's the bravest sound of a child's laugh. It's a spouse's hand reaching out for yours without a second of hesitation. And sometimes, if you are incredibly lucky, it's a golden dog who stared at a door for 8 months and never once stopped believing you would walk through it. So I'll leave you with this. What ordinary, messy, beautiful detail of your own life are you maybe taking for granted today? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.